on retail inflation, CPI, for the month of January has been registered as 5.11%, which I was mentioning. So it becomes crucial now, because from the economic growth point of view as well, this revision of the base year has had its impact on the GDP growth as well, and now even we can see that on the inflation part. So how it goes in the future is something pretty much crucial, because the economists are actually having a close watch on this. And now moving on to our show in Business Wrap, which we were discussing about the Indo-US economic and the finance partnership dialogue, which was held today, the fifth round of dialogue which were held today. The US Treasury Secretary Jacob J. Lew met the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and had some discussions, and to discuss on the current state of Indo-US trade relations and what exactly are the takeaways from today's discussions. We have our guest, Professor Abhijeet Das, who is the Center for WTO Studies, IIFT. Hello sir, good evening, welcome to our studio.
Good evening.
So first of all, now before we go into the specifics, now I just wanted to ask you, how effective will this partnership between India and United States work as an engine to pull the fractured global economy to up?
Both India as well as the United States have a very crucial role in propelling the global economy forward. United States, for the very simple reason that it is one of the largest economies, perhaps the largest economy, and India, because it is not one of the largest economies as yet, but it's growing at a fairly fast pace.
Yes.
So these two economies together, if they grow at a healthy pace, can do the entire global world economy tremendous push. They can impart huge momentum, which can see acceleration in global growth, which can see rise in incomes globally.
Okay. Now, talking about the treaty itself, now with the trade relations especially, there is something which I just wanted to ask you. Now, India has overtook China a couple of days ago as the fastest growing economy among the emerging economies. Now, I don't want to, I mean, there's nothing in intention as a competition as such. I don't want to draw a comparison, but still, how is India relevant to United States as an efficient trade partner?
India is relevant from different perspectives. Not only United States, but many other countries do not want to put all their eggs in the Chinese basket.
Okay.
So they would like to source their imports from other countries, as well as seek export destinations to other countries besides China. And which better market in the world than India, if not China? So to that extent, I do think India has a very, very important role to play in the global trade.
In the current scenario.
Certainly.
When we talk about trade, sir, there is something important which comes in the bilateral investment treaty. This has been on the cards for many years. Agreement has to be made, and then there are various issues which actually come in. Now I just wanted you to analyze on this part. As we were mentioning, as you were mentioning, India is one safe destination for anyone to come and invest. Now President Obama actually very much recently, maybe a day ago, was talking to was intending, and then he was saying that actually stressing on the bilateral investment treaty with China as well. Now, in such a scenario, how important will this bilateral investment treaty be between India and United States trade relations, and also what impact will it have on both the economies?
Let's get some facts clear. Number one, there is evidence on both sides, so the jury is still out.
Yes.
Whether a bilateral investment treaty is effective in attracting investments. That's number one.
True.
To the extent that if we look at UNCTAD's Trade and Development Report of 2014, it says very clearly that bilateral investment treaties have very little to do with attracting investment.
Okay.
And in that report it said that there is very little empirical evidence to support. So in other words, what attracts foreign investment within a country is the overall business climate in the country, the prospects of future economic growth in that country. These two elements perhaps are more important than a bilateral investment treaty, and that might explain why the investment into China from United States has been very significant over the past decade or so. Although, as you would be aware, United States and China do not have a bilateral investment treaty.
Absolutely.
So the short point is, it is not bilateral investment treaty which really will attract investment, but the overall business climate in India and the prospects that the US investors see of economic growth in India, that will bring in investments within the country.
Dr. Das, if we're talking about bilateral investment treaty is not the case which attracts the investments, then there are, as you were mentioning, various other issues as well, like business climate. Then why are why both the countries are actually pushing on this bilateral investment treaty? It has been much in the news as well that there have to be a bilateral investment treaty to attract more and more investments. But you give actually a very different opinion, saying that this is not that important to attract investments.
The point to bear in mind is that bilateral investment treaties can play a role,
okay,
but they are not central to, they are not the pivot around which investments revolve. The main function of bilateral investment treaty really is to protect the interests of the foreign investors. And US has been pushing quite hard on securing a bilateral investment treaty with India, but both sides have been quite pragmatic. And if we look at the joint statement issued during the visit of President Obama, there is a fair bit of pragmatism. What that statement says in respect of bilateral investment treaty, first it talks of both sides meeting to assess the prospects of a high standard bilateral investment treaty. So it does not talk of negotiating, it does not talk of finalizing investment treaty.
Sir, Dr. Das, I would like to interrupt you for something. We have Ravi Shankar Prasad talking on some issue. We'll go live and
लेकिन इशारों में भी प्रधानमंत्री और अमित शाह की आलोचना की है। हम पार्टी की ओर से उनकी
Well, just now we've seen Ravi Shankar Prasad actually hitting out at Nitish Kumar. This is related to the ongoing Bihar political crisis. Moving on once again back in our show, we were discussing about the Indo-US Economic and Finance Partnership, the fifth round of dialogues which were held between the United States Treasury Secretary and also the our Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. We have our guest Dr. Abhijeet Das with us. Dr. Das, we were talking about the Indo-US trade relations current state. Now, the most important thing you gave a detailed analysis on the bilateral investment treaty, what is its importance and what is important to attract investments in India, because Indian government is actually focused on attracting investments from foreign countries through various schemes, the most importantly Make in India. Now, talking about the Make in India, I just wanted you to highlight this. Make in India is one concept where Prime Minister Modi is stressing upon, and then he spoke in United States as well, and then even when President Obama came in, this was discussed. How efficient is this complete scheme? Because it is completely, because many foreign investors are actually looking at it as a bright opportunity. Do you think United States is really interested in coming and investing in Make in India, through Make in India scheme?
I would say, why only United States? Investors world over look to invest in places which will generate profits.
Absolutely.
And if we are able to provide good infrastructure, predictability and stability of taxation laws, good facilities at the port, good logistics facilities, then why only United States? We will attract investment from all parts of the world.
True.
And so to that extent, Make in India certainly has the potential of reviving manufacturing. But at the back end, we need to do our homework in terms of improving infrastructure and ensuring predictability and stability of domestic laws.
Right, so we are running out of time, so we have few seconds. I just don't want to close without touching intellectual property rights issue. I want your a brief analysis on it.
Well, this is one area where the position of India and United States on some key elements is quite diverse.
Yes.
And till those positions are bridged, it is difficult to see a meeting ground.
Yeah.
In the area of patents, for example, United States does not like something called Section 3 of the Indian Patents Act, which in a way makes evergreening of patents almost impossible. United States wants India to provide something called data exclusivity, which would prevent generic medicines from entering the market early enough. So in short, the United States approach on IP and as far as patent goes is to ensure that generic drug manufacturers do not have easy access into the market. That would have consequences for budgets of common man when it comes to healthcare. That would have implications for the foreign exchange inflows and outflows in the country.
Right.
So naturally, India's stand has been very cautious.
Absolutely.